Hello and welcome to my program. I am Arrey from the African Center for Community and Development. Today we shall be talking about the ancient cycle of water. Water is sacred to almost all the peoples of the world, especially to Africa. We have so many reasons why we have to conserve water. But the first thing is we should reflect on this ancient cycle of water. Rain falls to the ground, and then rain gets into the ground and flows as a river into oceans, and through evaporation, it goes back into the atmosphere, forms rain, forms snow, and then humans and other living things benefit from this cycle. Plants grow, they bloom, and we have fruits and vegetables, and everywhere is green, and the cycle is a reflection of the health of living things. It is so important to so many cosmic logic that rain is given a spiritual component. In Africa, many people think rain and water come with fertility. However, there are also things we need to reflect on. We need to reflect on the need to protect and to conserve water and the ancient cycle of water. There are so many reasons why we should think about these. Water and rain increasingly is having issues based on climate change. We have dryness. The cycle of evaporation of water is no longer regular. We have prolonged droughts. We also have the warming of oceans. This is affecting marine biodiversity in a context where we have poor access to proteins and malnutrition and stunting and so on. Less marine biodiversity and fish means more hunger, more malnutrition, and more stunting. But you should not forget about the healing impacts of rain. Rain is soothing. They say it has pink noise. It has an impact on you relaxing, on you sleeping, on you taking away stress. Those gentle taps of rainwater on the roofs, on the windshield, those thoughts on the floor, they have an impact on the soul. That water that goes into the rivers is responsible for the fish we eat. It is also necessary for the ecotourism that we explore. So it is important that our businesses that depend on water should develop a mindset of protecting and conserving watersheds, also of sponsoring those who are custodians of watersheds in order that they can sustainably manage these resources for future generations. The ancient cycle of rain and water is really sacred to humanity. And we are facing a lot of issues recently. Pollution that goes into rivers, ends up in oceans and seas. It actually kills marine biodiversity, and this pollution is something that we can avoid. We can actually seek to use less pollutants in our agricultural systems. When we do that, it will help us to have lesser pollutants that end up in the oceans and destroy more biodiversity. We should also think about partnerships. Sometimes it's very difficult for communities that are already impacted by issues like climate change to have the resources to conserve their various ecosystems. That is why we think green financing is very important. But green financing should also be democratic, it should be inclusive, it should be participatory, it should lead to local custodians, individuals. I insist individuals because in many cases, land tenure systems are believed to be managed by communities always. Communities have their own land tenure systems, like in Africa, but natural resources, including watersheds, are also managed by individuals. So there should be flexible funding streams and also tolerance to different sizes of regenerative projects that are linked to water. We must not only sponsor projects that are mammoth. If we sponsor small projects linked to water conservation, they might be harbingers to bigger projects because people start learning from them and understanding the importance to conserve water resources and so on. So the ancient mystery of water seen in African cosmic logic. If you go to the Yoruba people, you know about Oshun, the river, and also issues about mythology. If you go to the Manu area of Cameroon, you have the Manu River and its essence. And if you go to the Botalan and the Wovia people of Fako, you also know the oceans also have their mythological and spiritual dimension. If you go to the Sanaga, if you go to the Wuri, to the Lake Chad Basin, and so on, and most of these watery masses need conservation and instruments that can help to make sure that the people who live around them benefit from these resources, and also that the biodiversity in them and around them can also thrive for future generations. Water is life. Rain is water. And therefore, we must fight so hard to preserve water and to preserve the cycle, the natural ancient cycle of water that falls as rain and becomes rivers and goes into seas and oceans and evaporates and gets into the atmosphere and falls back as rain and also waters our crops and provides us food and well-being and rejuvenation and the calming effects and so on. We need this to live a healthy or healthier life on the planet Earth and also to conserve the Earth for future generations. Thank you so much for watching this episode, which was focusing on water, the ancient cycle of water. I am Arrey. Thanks for watching the African Center for Community and Development. Cheers.